Welcome to the Filmmakers 412 podcast. I'm your host, Michael Ray. Today's guest is special effects makeup artist Shey Franscis. Shey and I talk about her education and career in special effects makeup. We also talk about why special effects makeup people need to be paid on every job. And finally, we talk about her film, The Torture Tapes. All in all, it was a very fun interview, and I hope you enjoy it. Here's our interview with Shey Franscis. Okay, Shey, thank you for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. We've worked on a couple of jobs together, but to be very honest, I'm not sure I understand much about you. I see that I've worked with you on a project where you were the director. I've worked with a couple of projects where you've been the special effects makeup artist. Tell me what you do. What do you like to do?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's an open-ended question because I do lots of things. I guess, yes, special effects is my main thing that I do, just because if I get to create it or make it out of nothing, then I'm a happy person. But I guess that has to be with directing as well. I really only direct my own things that I've written. So it kind of all ties together that I have a vision of something that I want the world to see, whether it be a movie, a photo shoot, or a makeup, or anything really, and I like to create it. So that's really me in a little nutshell.
Okay, so what are the hats you like to wear? Like, I think of you as a makeup artist primarily, but I don't know if that's the major thing or not.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of people think of me and they think of special effects and makeup, but I think that's because that's what I've done the most of. I guess that is definitely one of my favorite hats to wear. But I'm a literary major. I'm still in school, and I really like to write. That's something that brings me a lot of joy. I write poetry and I write scripts, and I've not yet written a novel, but maybe when I actually find time, maybe that's a thing I'll do.
So you're going to school right now?
Yeah. I've been in school for 4 years, and I finally will graduate in August.
From where?
Southern New Hampshire University.
How do you do that from here? Is it online?
Yeah, I do everything online. I mean, the rest of the world is all online now too, but I've been online for school for the past 4 years. It's been one hell of a journey, but it's been really rewarding, and I've learned so much about the actual formatting and how to write things properly and execute what's going on in my brain to paper.
Wow. I was afraid, before this, I was afraid to ask you questions that would give me too much information, and I'm kind of glad now. So this is really kind of interesting.
What do you mean by that? Were you afraid I was going to talk about blood and guts and all the scary things?
I've seen some of the things you've been involved with, and I wasn't sure how I was going to phrase it, but it's kind of creepy, a lot of this stuff. I remember you showing up at a shoot with 3 different variations you had 1-gallon buckets of vomit. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was the coolest thing. I did a selfie with the vomit, and I just thought that was the coolest thing. But like, why are you so interested in horror, for one thing? I'm going way out of order with my questions here.
Oh, that's cool.
But that's
my brain, so... Well, actually, it's funny that you ask that. And every time somebody asks that, they get an answer that they don't expect. So I actually was not a horror person growing up. I like fantasy, I like musicals, and I like Disney. I like things that are wholesome.
Have you ever tried to combine the genres like Disney and horror?
I have. It's called Hocus Pocus. No, I'm just kidding. No, actually. So honestly, a lot of horror scared me as a child. I did not like it. It gave me nightmares.
I thought that was the purpose of horror, to scare you.
Yeah, but as you're a 5-year-old, some of my horror friends are like, yeah, that made me so happy. And when that person smashed that head into that thing, and I was like, yeah, right. It gave me nightmares for weeks.
5 years old. That's called bad parenting. Is what it's called.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but. There's a lot of that in this world, I suppose. But I actually, the reason I got into special effects is because, like I said earlier, I like to make things. So when somebody comes to me and they say, I want to do this thing, but I have no idea how the hell I am going to do this, I like taking that process and figuring it out. And I guess the reason horror is my genre of choice now that I work in the most is because that is a genre that people need it. So growing up, I was a theater person. I've been in theater since I was 9 years old. And that's a genre of, or a field that you have to make things from scratch, and you have to use your perspective towards the audience, and the back of it could look like absolute shit, but the front is exactly what you need, and that's all about special effects. It's all about angling and what the camera is actually seeing. So a lot of special effects, what you actually see in the movie is not at all what it looked like in person, because the camera's at the right spot. And so that's the way theater, a performance works as well. Obviously, there's theater in the round, which is, God bless them, because that's one of the hardest theater things to do. But if it's a proscenium, and it's exactly at the front, you're able, there's that fourth wall, and so the back, it doesn't matter. And that's something that I like. And when I was a freshman in high school, I actually started doing props for theater, and they were god awful. We'll just throw that out there.
It's a learning curve thing.
I was 14, so let me be, I suppose. And I started making, the mirrors that had to break and all of these. I was in Dracula at one point, and, we had to make 15 mirrors all look relatively the same so that every night we could break this mirror and break this mirror. But then we also had to figure out, you can't have a mirror shattering on a stage in high school. These kids will get cut. And then, that's not good. So, I had to figure out how to make a smashing mirror that didn't actually hurt people. Obviously, we use sound effects to enhance the idea of it, but we wanted to see it shatter. And that was the first piece that truly showed me that, there was a problem. There's something we needed to get done, and I figured it out, and it was really fun. And then when I moved to Pittsburgh, I actually went to the Tom Savini Special Effects Makeup Program because I really wanted to not only, do makeup or, make things look pretty or whatever, is I wanted to learn how to make it. I wanted to learn how to sculpt things, mold things, run things, and make things from absolutely nothing.
So there's a school here in Pittsburgh that offers that?
Well, it's not Pittsburgh necessarily. It's Monessen, Pennsylvania. So it's like in the middle of the ghetto and absolutely terrifying. But there's actually a pretty cool school that's just plopped right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me more about that school, because I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, you've never heard of that school?
I've never heard of it.
Ah, okay. Well, there's quite a few people that in our community that have gone to that school because, yes, there's the special effects program, which is very popular. There's also a film program. There's also cosmetology. And there's also things like natural gas and things that, are not that artistic, but important. And so what's cool, obviously the special effects program is one of the largest because Tom Savini, being from Pittsburgh and being popular here, he founded, that program. And so that's kind of the draw to it. But I think, honestly, what's awesome about it is that you get to be in a building surrounded by a bunch of other creative people and unlimited amounts of supplies. So that was my excitement, because as I started getting into this as a teenager, I realized that I made a lot of mistakes and I wasted a lot of product. That was kind of sad, like silicone and latex and hundreds of dollars worth of things. Whereas now I was at the school and I had the guidance and the supplies. And that is truly where I guess my first love of horror came from, because I was surrounded by horror people, which is funny because when I get there, they're all like, yeah, I love blood and guts and I love all this stuff. And I was like, I'm a cosmetologist and I like fantasy. So I was a little bit of an oddball at the start. But soon, now everybody knows me as the blood girl. They're all like, Shey's blood is the best blood. And thank you for that. But why I like blood and making vomits, like you had said, is because I like my hands being messy and I like the color and the fun things all over my hands.
Yeah, I think that fun things and blood, I think there's a psychological thing right there, but we won't explore that now. So is the guy that started that He's not the living dead guy, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, he is. Okay. There are probably other ignorant people like me that may not know that, but
Oh, yeah. I mean, I could go into a spiel, but honestly, you just go ahead and Google Tom Savini and Pittsburgh, and you will find things.
So how big are the classes there? Maybe I should have him on the podcast.
I mean, that would be interesting. He's definitely here somewhere, and isolation somewhere.
So before you went to school, you mentioned that you tried to make this and that. Where did you learn that kind of stuff?
Through theater.
Okay, if you're interested in special effects and you don't have a school to go to right now, where's the best place to go to learn about that kind of stuff?
Well, everybody would say you can learn anything on YouTube. And yes, you can learn a lot of things on YouTube. But what is scary about venturing into YouTube is special effects can be dangerous. There are a lot of products that, they heat up, they seal. And if you don't know how to put in pry points or any kind of, areas to where you could quickly remove something, you could kill somebody. So if you want to go ahead and mold their face because you want a copy of their face, but you don't realize that, I should leave breathing holes somewhere.
Details. Oh.
Exactly. Things could go horrible. And so, yes, you can learn lots of things online, and that's wonderful, but the best is to always learn from people in, your elders, the people before you who have been doing this for years and years and years and have made those mistakes. Nobody has killed anybody so far that I think, but I've heard horror stories from my teachers about how they've encapsulated or locked friends inside molds and things, and that's terrifying. I actually have my own little scary story. I am weird about things in my ears. I don't like water and liquid and things. I mean, nobody likes a wet willy, but I can't stand wetness in my ears. And I decided, I want an entire, chest to back over my head mold of my head because I want to create something fun. And yes, you can do this. This is a thing and it's safe. But I was stupid and didn't realize that I probably should have put cotton in my ear canal so that it would have stopped right there. And so I have this entire encasing of alginate, which is a algae, safe for your skin, mouth, body kind of stuff. They actually use it to make your impressions when you're at the dental labs and stuff like that. And so you put that on your body. All of a sudden, it starts seeping into my ears. And I'm like, oh my God. And I start freaking out. And I actually had to stand up and rip myself out of it because I put myself into a panic attack. Then I accidentally left some of the alginate in my ears because I was freaking out so much and ripping it off that my best friend Lindsay, who is also a special effects artist, we met at this school, had to stick about 3-inch sharp tweezers into my ear to take out this piece of alginate that was freaking me out. Already set up now because it sets up pretty fast, but I couldn't get it out. So here we are, I was in my building, my school building. So as soon as this started happening and I'm having a panic attack, we ran to my teacher and he was able to be like, use this, get this, get this. Now, if you're in your own bedroom with your friends and both of you don't know what the hell you're doing, and something worse even happens, you're going to have a panic attack and you might end up hurting yourself. So although mine's not like a dire, it's going to kill me situation, it put me in a panic attack. So just anybody who's inspired to be a makeup artist or anything like that, by all means do it because it's one of the best things in the world to be creative. But please know what you're doing and don't lock yourself in anything to where you can't breathe.
Wise advice.
Thanks.
So are there people that you still reach out to? Like say someone approaches you to do a special effect you haven't done yet and you're trying to figure it out and you can't quite come up with a solution. Is there someone you can reach out to learn more about special things? I mean,
oh yeah. I mean, sure. First of all, when somebody comes to me and they're like, I want to do this thing, but I don't know how to do it, and I don't know if you've ever done it before, I say, hell yeah, because I like discovering new things. I have ripped out intestines on more than one account. I've had people foam at the mouth. I've done all of these things. And
these are all special effects you're saying. You're not doing real life
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Thanks.
sure. Anywho, yeah. So, these are things that I've done time and time again, and I enjoy doing them because every time you do another special effects, like anything, you learn more and you learn more. But to be able to do something I hadn't done before is an exciting challenge for me. But yeah, like I had mentioned, my best friend Lindsay, I always, if something happens, the two of us, if, we used to work together on things a lot, but as, we both grew as artists, we started doing things separate. But we're always referring to each other like, how the hell do you think we do this? Or, I actually am still pretty good friends with one of the instructors I had, at school as well. So I recently, I'm working on a project now where it's how do I even explain this? Okay. It's a latex suit that is over the entire torso. It's for a female, so I had to make sure that it would fit her chest. And it looks like a face and hand, and a person is trying to push themselves out of her body. But she wanted this suit to be reusable. So it's not just like a one-time application. I could totally mold and sculpt and then, use some kind of foam or silicone and attach it to her body. But she wants to be able to wear this continuously at events and things because she goes to conventions and all kinds of fun stuff. And so I'm like, okay, so how do I make this suit that is re-wearable? At least she can wear it for a year or two. And depending on how often she wears it, and she can hang it in her closet in between uses. And I had to go to a couple of people because I was like, how the hell and what kind of products do you think I should use in order to do this? Because silicone would be beautiful, but heavy and very hot. So say it's the summertime and she would not be able to wear that. She would be sweating like a hot pig. I know pigs don't sweat, but how that goes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
that's why they roll in mud or something like that. That's a whole other spiel. But yeah, she would just sweat and it would be so uncomfortable. So I actually did end up using latex, and I ended up actually layering it with fabric so that it gave it some kind of durability, but it still was thin enough. It's not completely done. I should be finishing it in the next few weeks. But definitely one of the most challenging projects I've ever had to do. I've made a few mistakes. I've had to go backwards. I've had to, redo things. And that's what special effects is. Special effects is special because it's always an adventure.
It sounds like all these chemicals and stuff have to be really expensive too.
You bet. They're expensive, and they only ship during a certain amount, during certain seasons, because they can't be in heat or extreme, they can't freeze. So you basically need to get your things during the spring or the fall.
Wow.
Which you don't want to get them in the fall because you need them in the fall. So you order your stuff in the spring.
So that just is more stuff for you to hoard, right?
Yeah, so that's why I have a studio that literally is the Shey Cave, full of all my crap.
Do you live in Monessen? Do you live out that direction? No.
I did.
You live in Shadyside.
I do.
Close to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I live in Friendship now. I've lived in Mount Washington. I've lived in Monroeville. I've lived all over this city, hopping around.
Do you have a day job, or are you pretty much a professional student at this point?
kind of a professional student.
Well, you mentioned so far that you've studied cosmetology, and now you're into this horror stuff, and you're still going to school for literary stuff. I mean, so do you have a day job?
I do have a day job.
Wow.
I work for McLaughlin Distillery, which is a distillery out in Sewickley. We make moonshine and whiskey, which is awesome. We also have a vodka. But I before all this nonsense, I used to work in the tasting room, and people could come in and do samples of all of our not 32 spirits at one time, but we have 32 spirits you can choose from. And we did home tasting parties. I was just kind of a representative for this company. Now we can't do samples or go to people's houses, but we've switched it up, and I now do deliveries for them.
Huh. I would think that it wouldn't be so bad, coronavirus, because you're bringing your own way of sanitizing everything. I mean, you drink moonshine and it pretty much kill anything in your body. Yeah, that's right. You just wipe a little bit on your hands and you're good to go.
Yeah, actually, our company made something like 500 bottles of hand sanitizer, and it was gone in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just flying off the shelves.
How come they stopped?
Because we're running out of supplies. And everybody is having an issue of, getting certain things that are quote unquote non-essential. And so we had to kick back a few different things, and some things have been sold out for weeks.
Wow. I just wonder, we're recording this now, and people will hopefully be listening to it sometime in the future, and they'll look back, and it's almost like a 9/11 thing, where it's like, wow, this was, and they're going to, later, hopefully everybody's going to kind of forget all this to some extent.
That's what we're all hoping for, right? Like, I was just talking to my friends the other day. I was like, 5 years from now, maybe we'll start touching each other again. Like, actually going for a handshake and not being like, should I do this?
Well, you know what? I almost think there's going to be this population spike like 9 months after this. But after that, think about all these relationships that are going to like stutter getting started. It's like, well, social distancing. It's like, I don't know
if I want to hold your hand right now.
Let alone.
Let alone be in a relationship.
That's crazy. Yeah. So what are some of the like most fun projects you've worked on?
Oh, okay.
First, let's start with your most well-known projects. Like if somebody wanted to see your work now and they could jump on YouTube or whatever, what could they look up to see?
Okay, well, I've got a few things. I have my own YouTube channel. A lot of it will be some silly films that I made back in film school. And then also my first film I made in Pittsburgh, which is called Vengeance. And it's an Italian Renaissance story, which I think is pretty fun. We got very elaborate with costumes, and we had a beautiful building to film in. So that was nice.
These projects are your directing,
yes,
producing projects. Okay.
Yes. And I also did obviously set design and wardrobe and things like that, because I also do those. I make things. I make shit. That's what I do. That's just, so that's on there. I also, obviously I've worked on things that other people have done. They're not on necessarily my YouTube, but I've worked with a couple. It's so hard to say because I do so many different things. It's like, do you want me to pick a favorite horror or a favorite special effect? Do you want me to pick something that I enjoyed directing or things like that? And also then you talk about 48-hour film festivals, and those are a whole other ball game than something I had time to prep for. But just like a snippet of a highlight reel.
Do you have a highlight reel on your page?
I do not. My highlight reel's in my brain.
You know what? I don't even know if I want to go in there to view it.
You might want to. It's exciting.
I've seen some of your stuff. I mean, the stuff recently you've done with the women hanging from their hair and stuff. That's some bizarre shit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I do bizarre shit. I just, there's many... Like I said, I like doing pretty things too. Like I enjoy doing historical fiction. That's something I really love.
Writing historical fiction?
And just actually writing or doing like costuming and things for. Obviously historical things are fun too, but then you have that fine line of, oh, that's not accurate and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, all right, buddy, we all have budgets, so you can just turn a blind eye. Thank you. But... I would definitely say the one we worked on with the vomit, that was definitely very fun, Beth. I think that was fun because trying to figure out, which vomit he wanted and things like that and how far we wanted to spray it and things like that was fun. One of my favorite special effects ever was on this movie called Closure with Alex Kaysen and the Indie Ground Films. And that is because I got to build a belly at a silicone and foam. Oh, sorry, I wanted it at a silicone. It's actually at a gelatin, which is poor man's silicone. A lot of us indie people like that shit. And I got to build this belly that we put on in front of the actor. This is one of my intestines thing. It was actually the second time I had done intestines, but it definitely my favorite time because... If you watch, there's actually, I don't know if he's quite released it online yet. I have seen it, and we won Best Gory Scene in a film festival, which was pretty exciting for me. And it's funny because it's not a horror either. It's actually a crime thriller kind of idea where this man is a murderer and he's on death row and this woman is interviewing him, like, why the fuck do you do it and stuff like that. And, so he has to like pick out he has like a slice on it.
Oh, I watched that.
Did you watch that?
I did watch that.
Okay.
Was that
It's Alex Kasich?
Yeah, I just interviewed him a week or so ago.
Oh, that's cool.
And before I interviewed him, I watched that, and that was cool.
Thank you. Yeah, so it was really fun because we picked out a bunch of staples and then just like full hand right in his belly and just like rips out these intestines. So when it just like plops beautifully on the floor, I was just like, well, that's exciting.
You know what? I think it's probably easier than most people think to do that kind of stuff, not because of the difficulty. I think because most people look away when that actual thing happens. It's like, ooh, they cover their eyes and they don't look. And
they get the beginning and the end.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. It's so funny. Whereas my eyes are like peeled the entire time and I'm like, I want to watch every aspect of that. But yeah, no, that's definitely a highlight. I still go back to that one, and I think we might have even filmed that almost 2 years ago at this point. Him and I have I've worked on a bunch of things with him, which is, he always tries to, give me a fun task and challenge me, which is something I enjoy in a director. And then, yeah, I honestly, Vengeance is definitely one of my favorites costume-wise. Like, I literally made corsets and gowns and men's, Italian Renaissance costumes and stuff, and it took me months to make. But that was really fun.
Do you know Anne Marie Lydon by chance?
I do not.
She's a local food stylist, and she has a theater background. And she is really into costuming. She has like embroidery. I'll set you two up together.
Embroidery machine. Is that what I hear?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have one of them.
She keeps trading up and up and up. So
she's got a pretty one.
She does food styling, and she's pretty busy, and she makes some decent money doing that. But her fun thing is to do like costuming for high school plays and stuff like that. So I'll put you two together.
Yeah, no, that would be really cool. It's always good to talk to people who enjoy doing similar things. So let's see. And then honestly, last year, these films are not out yet, but I actually was a crazy person and thought it would be fun to do 2 feature films at the same time. So last spring, summer, and fall, I was involved in 2 very heavy special effects productions. One where I was the key special effects makeup artist. I ran the whole show. I had some help to help me, of course, but I kind of designed everything. And then one where it was Lindsay and I together in the beginning, and then opened up to 2 other Dominique Kirchell and Jess Bala, 2 other special effects artists in our area. So it was like 4 of us all working on this.
Wow. What was the show?
It's called The Boonies, and it is Locust Street Entertainment's new production, which I hear is almost done, and I'm very excited to see it because we did some crazy, crazy shit in that. And we're out in the middle of the woods in Johnstown for the big majority of our summer, sweating, being eaten alive by bugs, but it was fun.
So how do you work all this together when you get a feature shoot? How do you work your school and all your other obligations?
Well, I go crazy a little bit, obviously, so I am a little nuts when I grab and take all these things on. I kind of have certain days to do certain things, and you have to get into the mindset that right now, this is what I'm doing. So right now, for the next 3 hours, I am going to write this English paper. And then once I'm done with that, you almost quote unquote wash your hands, and then you move to the next project. So for the next 5 hours, I am going to sculpt this piece. And so then you move on, and then you're like, okay, well, I have an event now, so I'm going to go, some crew connect or some kind of poetry night, or, the things that I do with my friends that are trying to be a quote unquote human. So then I would do that in the evening, and then you just have, Mondays, I never do homework, and I've never done homework on a Monday in the past 4 years.
What if it's due on Tuesday?
Oh, it's always due Sunday at midnight.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a nice thing about online stuff.
Yeah, I can kind of manage that. So it's, you just kind of, you figure out what's important and when you need it. There's many a times that in between shoots, I'm doing homework. I set up my computer, and I'll have like a little desk, somewhere on a log in the middle of the woods. And I'll be doing homework in between when they don't need me. And maybe I skipped out on eating and showering sometimes, and maybe my laundry was dirty, but, my projects got done. But yeah, so it definitely, this past summer was into fall was definitely the busiest I had ever been since I started doing movies or moved to Pittsburgh about 3.5 years ago. It was definitely the biggest, craziest time. And there was times that I definitely was stretched too thin, but that's when you have to remind yourself why you do it and that you signed up for it. So finish it.
Right.
You know?
So for a lot of indie projects, there just is not a lot of budget.
Yes.
And since you are putting a lot of time in and a lot of material expenses, like how do you choose your projects? And do you just say, okay, I'll do this project for free because it's fun, but you pay the expenses? Or like how do you normally do it? I'm sure it's on a per project basis.
Oh, for sure. That's tricky because first of all, everybody who's on a film set deserves to be paid, but that's not reality. We deserve a lot of things in life. But I think a lot of people in the indie community come into this thinking that they're going to make millions and they're going to be famous and they're going to make movies. So yeah, you're going to make movies. So, and if you love making movies and you enjoy seeing your work on screen, that should be your number one. Obviously, yes, you need to pay your bills and things like that. And there are people who make it, and good for them. That is amazing. However, I've always had a day job to go along with these things that I have to put into the mix. Another reason, why I guess I suppose special effects was for me too is, I started in acting. I can act, I can sing. I studied music for 14 years. I'm an orchestral clarinetist. That was my life beforehand, and I realized, well, you're not going to make money doing that unless you're amazing, which, I wasn't. I'm a talented musician, but that's not like, I wasn't going to go off and make money doing that. I also was not going to go off and make money being an actress. But with something like special effects or, a consumable department, you're more likely to get money, and you're more likely to be offered a bigger budget because once I use it, it's gone. So it's, never to take away from a camera or a sound man, or a woman, like that's, you guys are so needed and wonderful and amazing. But once you buy your equipment. Yes, it takes a wear and tear. I understand that. And eventually it will break and you need to replace it. But once you have it, you have it. And, you're able to maybe take a free gig because if you really like it, nothing, the only thing you're using is your time. With makeup, once I use that $80 palette on your face, I need to replace that $80 palette. And, so that's another reason why I went into that. Of course, I have done makeup for free. And, sometimes with the 48-hour film festivals and things like that, that's kind of part of the appeal of it. But about 2 years ago, I've not done a movie for free, like legit for free. Like I'm paying basically to put into it in like 2 years. Sometimes my budget's $50. But if I'm just doing beauty makeup or something easy, then, I'm okay with that. And also I've developed relationships and friendships with people in this community, and they're my friends. So it's kind of like I wash your back, you wash mine, right? So there's partners that I have that, I'll put time into their project because they're going to turn around and put time into my project. And I think that's really what it's all about when you're an indie filmmaker. So yeah, if that answers it, kind of. It
kind of does. So do you want to make it big? Like, do you want to go to Hollywood?
That's a tough question of whether I want to quote unquote make it to Hollywood. Well, I suppose with the way that Hollywood has been making movies in the past few years, I would have to say no, because I think that what we knew as Hollywood, they were the people who were defying what filmmaking was like and who we are. And now I feel like a lot of us practical artists are not needed in Hollywood because most things are CGI and things like that. Now, would I like to work on a big budget indie film where we're still able to make things and create and do things maybe the way we used to, or even just there's a perfect balance between CGI and practical effects. There is a balance, and when that balance is made, it's beautiful. And when that balance is destroyed and it goes one way or the other, it can begin to look bad or fake. So I don't want to go to LA, and I don't want to go to Hollywood to create these cookie cutter films or remakes or whatever they are. But, I would love to one day have those few films that, you look back on in your life and be like, yeah, that's how I got my, that's paid the bills maybe at the time, but it's really not about that. It's more like, that's my mark. When I pass away and I'm gone from this world, I would love to have a piece of me still here where people are like, oh man, that girl, like she did this and she did that. I have people like that in my life that I look back to and I'm like, man, had I ever just been able to meet that person, like we're so the same coming from an artist standpoint, and I get to continually watch their stuff or read their stuff. Like this past few weeks, I've been studying Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And of course, I had read it as a child, or knew what it was about rather as a child. I didn't really actually sit down and read this whole novel. And if you read it and you read Mary Shelley's story, I'm just like, wow, that woman and I have so much in common, and it is 200 years later. But for some reason, we have this connection. And I think that for a lot of us, we just want those few big projects that kind of allow us to leave our mark on the world, like Mary Shelley did.
I never really thought of it like that. Mm-hmm. I guess I'm more into like gratification now, like enjoying it now, but I did.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's definitely that moment too. And a lot of us, we make things and same with her and other people in the past, they make things and they don't realize it's going to be that big. Like Rocky Horror Picture Show. They thought that was a joke, right? But now
Did they really?
Yeah, it's a cult classic.
Oh my God. I've seen it 20, 30 times.
It's amazing every time. And it's gonna be with us for so long because it's that good. But they didn't know that. The budget on that was shit. And they were just joking and having a good time. And I'm sure that movie was amazing to make.
Oh, yeah. I bet they had a blast.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I've had some moments on film sets that will stay with me for the rest of my life because they were just so enjoyable. And I've met so many talented and fun people to be around.
That's the part that I'm really enjoying is I just enjoy doing this. Mm-hmm. And it has crappy hours and
your feet hurt?
And I don't get paid most of the time.
You have to pee in the woods sometimes?
Oh, I don't mind that. That's okay.
Yeah, but, I don't either. But
So let's get on to more of your directing experience. So you like to write. Do you consider yourself a screenwriter?
No.
When you write a movie, do you write it in screenwriting format?
Yes.
Okay.
And playwriting, because they actually are different formats. So I have written a couple plays, only one acts and things like that as of now. But yeah, when at first my process to writing is to first kind of come up with an idea.
How do you do that? How do you usually brainstorm to get an idea?
It'll come to me. I'm one of those people. Like all of a sudden I'll be like, oh my gosh, yes.
Give me an example.
Yeah. Well, actually it's going to be, I can explain. I got two stories. My latest film is called The Torture Tapes, which you were there for.
Part of it.
So for day one. The whole thing was shot in 2 days, and it's a 17-minute film. That came to me because my entire film was shot on a VHS camera. And one day I was just sitting at a friend's house, and she was like, so we have this camera in the basement. We've had it for so many years. Like, we're going to throw it away, but we didn't know maybe you want it. I was like, well, let me see it. Like, don't throw anything away. I'm a hoarder. What do you mean? And so she brings it up and I'm like, it's a VHS camera. And she's like, yeah, but we have the tapes and everything. And I was like, okay. And she's like, but you have to plug it in because the battery pack doesn't work anymore. And I was like, okay. And so, I put it in and I put the tape in and I feel it and it does the wind and it does all the things. And I look into the viewfinder and it's in black and white. And I was like, oh man, black and white. And it had the film I think, what do you call it? Composites on it, like the little like flickers and stuff. And I was like, ooh, this is pretty. And I was like, maybe I could make something with this. And then I sat there and I was like, well, it's kind of creepy. And then I just started thinking about, torture movies. I actually hate what they call torture porn. That is my least favorite type of movie.
Really? Because that's so similar to just
I know
horror stuff.
it is, but see, there has to be a purpose. I can't stand when it's just like, let's see how disgusting we can get. From a special effects point of view, yes, sign me up. From an audience point of view, I'm just like, okay, like that's cool.
Wait. First of all, I think of a recent post you made on Facebook or something where this woman was hanging from like her hair and like her body from behind.
I slit her throat.
Isn't that like kind of torture porn?
It is, I suppose, but it could, maybe to other people it appears that way, but it's also just kind of it's a style. And it's not that I was necessarily torturing her. It's something we enjoy doing together. So there was consent, friends. Consent.
Okay. Let's not go down that path. But I think I know where that's going.
Yeah. So I'm excited to do anything that, steps outside of normalcy, because I like fantasy and I like film out of the reality.
Okay, let's get back to torture tapes. I'm sorry for that.
No, that's okay. There's so many things to talk about. I'll go off on anything. So the torture tapes, I wanted something more psychological. I wanted to torture one's mind. And instead of having, a quote unquote monster, somebody who's clearly an evil person and wants to do, cause pain on people, I wanted it to be somebody with more depth and a reason behind what they were doing. A lot of people were actually very surprised when they watched the torture tapes to see that there was very little blood in the whole thing. And that's, for one, I'm only one person and I was writing, directing, and acting. So you really can only do so much. But also it was more about how sick and twisted the mind is and how sick and twisted people are versus a quote unquote monster. And so I just really, to get into a little bit more of a personal aspect to it, prior to writing the torture tapes, I was in a very bad relationship, which a lot of us have gone down before, where it was very abusive and damaging to my mind and myself. And, a lot of us artists, we use art to pull ourselves out of something nasty and negative. And that film was my outlet for allowing some of the hurt and pain to come through in a character versus sitting there and just hating yourself and going down that path of, oh, what did I do and this and this and that. I decided, well, let's put it out on screen so that everybody else can see it. And so it was kind of a little bit of therapy for myself, and also I just really wanted to show that like people are able to damage other people versus, a monster, an evil being hurting somebody. And when I was given that camera, I was like, well, this will be fun. I also am probably one of the very last generations of people who know what a VHS is and a VCR and remembering rewinding things and going to the video store and things like that. I'm 27 and I actually remember these things. And soon those are things that people are like, what is that? So
That'll mark you as an old person.
A little, soon it will. 30 is approaching. But so I think it was just kind of my way of bringing back that nostalgic aspect while digging into my psyche. And, all of a sudden the torture tapes came to be and people liked it, which was kind of funny.
You know what? I haven't seen it yet.
Well, you should have came to the premiere.
Well, I wasn't able to.
I know. I'm just picking.
So can I go online? Oh, you can't tell me anywhere. It's not.
It's not online right now because it's in the film festival circle.
I bet it is behind some kind of firewall that I could get through.
I'm sure, or I could just send you the private link
That's
and with the password, and you could totally watch it.
I'd like that. Why 3 tapes? Why 3 movies?
Because all things are best in threes.
Oh, What else? What else are good in threes?
Oh, I don't know. I want to go down this candy. No, I think that, one was, I didn't want to go too far into one story just yet, because I was like, it was kind of a trial, and like if somebody liked a certain story, I was like willing to go maybe farther into it.
So this is proof of project or proof of idea?
Kinda, yeah, and
proof
just
of
like,
concept. It's called.
Yeah, proof, whatever the hell. It was just kind of like a getting in there too, and I created the first story was actually the first tape, and the first tape is about two sisters, and one is pissed at the other because she got all the attention and things like that, and so I was like, oh, that started there, and then I was like, oh, what's even more like messed up is like how some people like want to mold people into being a being, and so they keep pushing and pushing this idea of who they are on somebody to break them to be that person. And so then I was like, oh, well, then I'll go into, the second one. And then all three are very different. There's very little audio or very little dialogue in the second story, Plaything. There is a lot of audio. You were there for that day, just to like pick up the sounds and things like that. But there really wasn't a lot of speaking. And that's because, it's a lot of things are great just by body language. And whereas the first one was super heavily, so much dialogue, which I could have smacked myself in the face for because I ended up having to act it last minute.
Yeah, someone didn't show up, right?
Yeah. Last minute I had somebody drop out, obviously for reasons, people have shit that comes up. But she had to drop out from that part, and I did not want to make the killer to be, or the protagonist to be a male, because all three of the villain-esque characters in this are female. And
I like that.
Yeah, being a female director and just being a female in the industry, I really wanted to kind of show that women are sick too. And so I was like, well, shit. You've already been in it. You're not comfortable with it. I guess it's me. And I ended up having to learn. I knew the words.
Oh, I think if anybody knew the lines, you
yeah,
did.
I knew the idea of them, but you don't know them to like exact, specifications necessarily. But I just have to thank God that, I had an AD that stepped up, Jason Burke, and he really helped with that. And then also, Jess Kelp, my counterpart, was so much fun, and we just blended so well on screen that I was just like, well, maybe that was meant to happen that way, because I did find I found my love for acting again through that, and I was like, oh man, I was so excited to like get in there, and
I could see you're really torn. It's like you like were kind of bitching and moaning that you had to do it, but I could tell you kind of liked it. I mean, I could just see that, okay, I'm embracing this. I'm going to do it.
I think I was bitching and moaning because I was scared, like I had not been on screen, and I'm random kills and, that person in the corner all the time when they need an extra body. But, I had been many years since I had been in the limelight, so to speak. And I was like, oh God, like this is scary. And it's my own film. If I mess it up, I destroy this whole thing. So it was scary, but it was very rewarding by the end. And when I actually watched it back, I was like, huh,
I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah, I guess I'm not completely shitty.
Have you acted since then?
A little bit. I actually, I recently auditioned for a theater company here.
Wow.
And, obviously theater is not happening right now, but they're still trying to prepare for when it will. And I got a call back for a lead part. So I'm not going to say too much because if I don't get it, that's depressing. But, that's something.
That's cool. That's what you need, more things to do.
Right.
Like be a little more diverse.
Yeah.
So
always add more to my schedule.
Well, school's going to end, so you'll need to do something, right?
August.
So how do you choose what projects you take on and which ones you reject?
Well, first of all, if I read your script, and I may like it, I may think that it's a cool idea. If I feel that, it's hard to say that it would be a waste of my time. And the reason it would be a waste of my time would be I'm doing beauty makeup, or I'm doing this teeny tiny little thing that I've done many a times. And as much as I appreciate, somebody coming to me because they think of me, if it's not something new or a nice budget, obviously, I have to turn it down because my time is so limited as is. Like I jam pack my schedule so much that if I don't see that there is going to be, some kind of, I guess self-gratification out of it, or either immediate or in the future, then I kind of have to turn it down. Because if I accepted every single script or concept that came my way, it'd actually be impossible. There's not enough time in the day. There's just not. So I have to be more limited. And so I choose things, that maybe wouldn't challenge me, or there is no budget, then I have to turn it down. That's kind of an easy one, because I'm just like, well, if you can't pay me, then I have to, move on. But I'm always somebody who's like, well, I have this other person too that, maybe they can do it or something. So I'll always help and pass projects on to other people. But if it's not, something that I'm like, wow, I could totally see myself doing this or whatever, I have to turn it down.
I assume there's some people that you, like Jason, I think if he asked you to do beauty makeup, you'd do it. I mean, it's like he's just your buddy and like you're a team to some extent.
Exactly. Yep. I definitely have some people that, they come to me and they want something simple. I always do it. But my life has also come to a point where I'm like, so I can come in for 3 hours, I'll do this makeup, I'll leave this touch-up stuff, and now I have to leave because I either have to go to another one, or it's not worth my time.
Or you have to do homework.
It's not worth a 12-hour day over for me, but it's maybe worth a 3-hour or 4-hour day for me.
Gotcha. Are there people that you've worked with in the past and have, I don't want any names or anything, but people you've worked with and you've had a bad experience, and if they called you tomorrow, you would make excuses it's like, are there people you won't work with?
Yes. I think we all have a blacklist. We all have our own personal blacklist, and I don't have a blacklist if I've never worked with you. So, I've heard things, people will say, oh, that person is this or that person is like that. I always try it for myself because I know that people have personalities and they blend a certain way, and things like that. And I'll always give it a try. Have I had instances where I've been warned up and down and then this person or this group of people were awful and even worse than I ever thought? Oh, yeah. I've had experiences where you almost question being in the industry because you think everyone's an asshole. But, when that happens, you kind of have to be like, all right, well, I'll never work with you, and you. And, unfortunately, if you just continue to do that, you're going to self-sabotage yourself. So I'm just going to wait for you to burn yourself down, and I'll just be over here watching. Thanks.
Yeah, it's funny. It's all you're kind of volunteering a lot of times, and it's long hours, and you really kind of have to enjoy the people that you're working with, or it's really not worth it because it's like a double negative against you already to begin with.
If you're not making money and you're not having a good time, what the hell are you doing? Wasting time.
Right. And yeah, there's some pretty strong personalities in this industry too.
Yes. Yep.
I haven't found too many people that I won't work with on personality, but some people, they're new at this. I realize we're all at different degrees of learning, we're on this learning curve thing, but some people are just so far down that I don't know. I just don't want to, it's like, I don't want to donate my time to a losing project that I know is going to be losing right off the bat.
It's going to fail. And not even that it's going to fail in the aspect that the movie won't come out. It's just going to fail because there's just no positivity and there's no happiness there. That's how I feel like with a lot of things. I've worked on a lot of projects where, honestly, I would say my blacklist is under 5 people. And for the amounts, I have done over 50 films since being in Pittsburgh in 3.5 years. So if to have, about 3 or 4 people on that list, that's pretty damn good. So the majority of the people I work with, I adore. And maybe they're not my best friends or anything, but I could totally work with them. And I have moments of joy with all of them. Some I'm like, I love you. And when I see they're there, I'm like, today's going to be a good day. We all have our friends like that. But yeah, so I think to only have the few I do, I think that's pretty good.
I think that's actually my number two. There may be like 3 people, 4 people. And it's not that I don't like them. It's like, I guess I'm getting more picky in my older age. Not my older age, but I get more experience. I've worked on about 30 some films now. And it's like, okay, I understand they were students. I'm more critical of how people treat me. If it's like,
Agreed.
If they don't treat me with some kind of respect, or I don't know. It's
just like a human being, like just to treat you like a human being. Honestly, it comes down to that. And actually, as you say this, it sparks an idea. So I've worked on films that it is like their first or second or very few, one of the very first ones they've ever done. And they're sometimes my favorite director. And, actually, speaking of which, I'm thinking of, his name's Mark Schuba, and he's the other feature film that I was working on over the summertime where I was the lead special effects artist, and it's called First Night of Summer. And he's 24 years old. He has directed a few things, and he does a nice job. But the fact that every day we all walked on set, he was smiling. He was happy. He'd be like, all right, guys, this is great. Like, if it wasn't great, he'd be like, maybe not that take, but let's do this take, and I've worked with people who are like, well, that's shit. I don't even know why you're even in this industry. And that's just, how can you even get someone's best work if you're just going to continue tearing them down? Whereas then here's this young kid. I mean, I'm only 27. We're not that far apart. And if he's listening, he's going to listen to this. He's going to be like, Shey, you always call me so young. But he is young. But he's amazing. And he's so fun to work with. We've only known each other a few months, in the film industry. And he is now one of, I would consider one of my people. Like my people in my group that will forever, if I'm making a movie, I want him there. And, that's important.
Right. You know how you go on a film set sometime and they feel like an obligatory need to have a safety talk? Have you ever been on sets like that where, okay, we're going to be safe today, we're going to...
For sure.
I think what they should do instead of doing that, they should say, okay, we're filmmakers. This is it. Right now is what we all dive for. I mean, we just strive to be here today. Okay, it's today.
Yeah.
We're here. Let's make the most of it. Let's have a good time. Let's do the best project we possibly can. I just think that's so important because a lot of people, almost just the opposite happens where, and I can understand it because, okay, they're a director. They got to think of this, that's this. And I couldn't do it. It'd drive me crazy. But they get so stressed out that they forget that they're supposed to be enjoying this.
Yes.
And I just think that if we could just stop, it's almost like a mindfulness Buddhist thing, like, okay, this is it. We've all wanted to do this now for months and months and months. Today's the day. We're here. Let's enjoy the hell out of this.
You're absolutely right. And I've been on both sides of that. I have directed things and there are moments where you're just like, shit. Everything is falling apart.
Right.
I planned all this. I did all this. And you start to really, you're like, why the hell do I even do this? And things like that. But then, it's definitely important to be like, oh, well, like I had said earlier with, I'm here. This is what I'm doing. So right now for the next, 12 hours, everything else in the world does not matter except what I'm doing right now. And that's the only way to truly have moments like that. I feel as a director, it's harder to do that. But when I'm a special effects artist, I think I do a very good job at doing that because very rarely am I grumpy as a special effects artist, unless somebody steps on my toes, then I might beat you up. But if I just sit in the back and I'm just like, when it's special effects time, I'll shine. And then when it's not, I'm going to be in the back eating crafty. That's just what I do.
I just, you mentioned that and I picture your face. We were working on Brenna's CMU job.
Oh, yeah. Planetarium? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
That was an interesting movie.
I thought that. And do you follow her on Facebook? I do. Did you see that her doing that duet with her sister? That was amazing. They could turn professional.
Brenna is an amazing person.
She's an actress. I've never seen her act. I worked with her twice and she's been a director both times.
And she's great at that too.
And there's a few people that I think could make it big. And I think she's one of them. I'm going to keep an eye on her.
I 100% agree with that. When I met Brenna, she was an actress. So I was working with Falling October Productions. on a 48-hour film festival. Lindsay Eder was the director. She's also an amazing director. And that was one of my favorite films too, which I hadn't talked about earlier, but I had to create a demon from scratch. I even built horns out of toilet paper tubes and latex in the 13 hours I was doing makeup from start to finish. And then we shot it. Obviously we have 48 hours for the whole thing, but my duration was 13 hours. And let's see, I made a demon and there was nails and horns. I jabbed a pencil through Brenna's eye. I ripped off Alex Blair's cheek. I cut someone's tongue out. I ripped, I think, Brenna's fingernail off.
You were happy as a pig in a whatever. It was like
pig and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want to swear. But yeah, I mean, I just remember on Brenna's shoot, it's like you were like, you cut through the hand, like as you did it, and there was a big smile on your face. It was like the creepiest thing. You were having so much fun.
I love it. I love it. And it's, it's moments like that. But yeah, so I met her through acting, but then she asked me to come on for Street Voices, which is a feature film that she directed.
I worked one day on that.
Yeah, I did wardrobe actually on that one and set design.
Jeremy did that. He did a great
Jeremy's
job.
another one to keep an eye on. Talented man.
Yeah.
Talented.
You know what? It was funny. I worked with him on that one day for Street Voices. Then I worked with him later after that. But the one day I'm thinking, yeah, he's okay. And then I saw the trailer for Street Voices. I've never seen the whole thing, but I saw the trailer and I thought, that guy has a really good eye.
He has a really good eye, and he's nice. I love when people are nice and do things like that. And so I worked with.
It's too bad these two people we're talking about, Jeremy and Brenna, both left town.
I know. Well, they're off in LA doing the good things. They should be doing great things. And I think that whole group of people, I still follow a lot of them on Instagram and Facebook just to keep an eye, and they're all doing great things. And then I love Brenna because she always lets me do fun things. And like I said, there's a collective of people who are like, Shey, I want to do this weird thing and I need you to figure it out. I mean, I made ovaries for her. Ovaries. I made ovaries to be ripped out of a stomach. Nobody will probably ever ask me for that again. And the fact that I got to make it, and they looked like chicken wings, which I think was hilarious for a lot of it. That was just amazing. And
how do you research that? Do you go on some kind of medical thing?
And, it's pretty disgusting. It's pretty gross.
I just saw a post you did on Facebook where there were jars of hearts and miscellaneous stuff. Mm-hmm. What was that? What was that for? That
was actually a private, a personal project that I worked on. Kind of also went along with the whole torture tapes idea. It was kind of my therapy to get through some shit in my mind. And I actually, it was at the Dollar Tree one day, and here's another how inspiration comes to me. I was at the Dollar Tree and I saw I could buy a snow globe, an empty snow globe that I can make my own snow globe with. But you know what would be cool? Eyeballs in blood. So a bloody snow globe instead of these other ones. I was like, oh, that would be so cool. So it started with the eyeballs, and I did that, and then I was like, oh man, fingers would be cool, and I put teeth in there, and I think I had a whole face in one, and I had a hand and an arm. I did all kinds of things, and they each had a story that went along with them. So it was actually whoever was this, the villain or the bad person. They got their hand cut off because they were abusive, or they had their eyes ripped out because they were witnessing evil things and never said anything about it.
Don't go to the rapist part, because that's going to just
I
totally
don't have any
out.
penises
okay.
in a jar yet. So it was just that kind of idea, and then I just kind of went with it. And it was funny, just right before our world went into a state of emergency, I had one last festival, and I sold the very last one of that collection. And so it was very exciting it was about a whole year it took me to sell all 9 pieces. And I found 9 other weirdos who found it and were like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
So what did you sell something like that for?
Like how much?
Yeah, just
25.
Okay.
Yeah, because again,
Is it formaldehyde or what's in it? And like,
it's just my own blood that I make, and I made it like. Obviously, I use corn syrup in some of my bloods, but I actually have different versions of bloods for different things.
You sell retail blood, don't you?
I do, and makeup.
Oh, we're gonna have to promote that at the end.
Yeah, just my website. But yeah, I sell. I sell all those things. So this blood had a lot less corn syrup and stuff like that because obviously sugars go bad. But if things are sealed, things don't really go bad. I've actually experienced, I tried to make a few Christmas ornaments and I put an ear that was from Spirit Halloween in it instead of making the latex ones that I normally make, and the thing molded because it was all moldy and gross because I was like, there must have been some kind of weird chemical, or maybe there was a hole somewhere in there and it, oxygen got in and it destroyed it. But I just perfectly sealed those suckers to where, they're fun. And I know most of the owners of them, and actually
owners of the ears.
Actually, of the face.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they bought the. Yeah. Well, I know them too. I cut them. They actually the owner of the face one is my friend that I'm making that skin suit for, and that's the day we met. She was like, "This snow globe is so gross and so weird, and I love it so much, and a friendship blossomed out of it." So that's a thing.
That's just weird. Oh, man.
I'm weird. What can I say?
I want to know how you correlate an ear and Christmas ornament. Like, how did that happen?
No, because I was like, I put all these things in a jar. Maybe I could hang it from a tree, and and I decorated it really pretty, and there's lace around it.
It wasn't taken from a psalm or anything like that, right?
No.
Oh, okay. Man,
No.
I'm glad I missed that. Give me some advice. If someone wanted to break into doing special effects makeup, how would you recommend that they get into that?
Well, obviously, the best way to learn anything is to do it. But again, like I had mentioned earlier, please be safe and use products that are safe to skin, and and also don't block anybody's airflow of any sort. But just start doing. That's the only way to do. Go to the Dollar Tree. Go to Walmart and get cheap makeup at first. Obviously, when you're ready to get the good shit, come to us professionals. But you just start doing it. You can do so much. You can make bruises with eyeshadow palettes and things like that. And go to YouTube and you can follow some. You can follow me on YouTube. I'm constantly doing tutorials. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook and reach out to me. If you're in the Pittsburgh area, you can definitely reach out to me and I could probably hook you up with something because I always have, projects going on and things. But, you don't know if you're actually going to like it until you do it. And then if you fall in love with it and you find out that this is it, this is what you love, you should go to school. And a lot of people are like, well, I'm self-taught and I can do this and I can do this. And it's like, yes, you can, but you can only go so far because school is not only for learning the skills to do things, it's also you learn people who are like you, and you learn people meet people who want to do the same things as you. And, I met my best friend at special effects school, and had I never met her at this special effects school in the middle of the ghetto, I never would have moved to Pittsburgh, because she came to me and was like, Pittsburgh is booming right now and people are making movies and I could get you in. You need to move here. And so I packed up my 93 Toyota Camry with $300 in my pocket and the makeup kit I had, and I lived with her and her mom for a while and got started. So it's if you want something, you just have to go after it. And everybody's journey is different, and everybody's story of how they got into the industry will be different because we're all different. So if you're interested, reach out.
Great. What about, do you have advice that you could give the indie filmmakers as far as dealing with special effects? Are there anything you see that filmmakers keep doing wrong that they could maybe do better, or they don't understand what you have to do?
Yes. For one, stop expecting us to do it for free. The shit's expensive, and putting time aside, which people's time is valuable, it's expensive. So don't think that you can, hire somebody and not pay them, even if, because you're going to give them exposures. Okay, thank you. I have over 50 exposures, and I still need to pay my bills and also replenish my kit. The other one, apart from money, because that's an obvious, is I don't understand how anybody would think that you could create a creature or a slit throat or some gashes on a face in the matter of 5 minutes. The idea of hurry up and wait is an obvious thing that we all deal with. But as makeup artists, we are the first people who start the day. As you guys are all setting up your scene and lighting and camera angles, there is an actor or a bunch in the chair being done. And in the morning, I find that's when we get our most time. They allow us the hour or two or whatever. But then remember, they still need to get in wardrobe and they still need to go to the bathroom, and maybe they want to eat breakfast before they get into makeup, because that's a pain in the ass to do makeup with somebody trying to eat food. But at the same time, they're going to be acting all day, and I don't want them to be hungry because that's unfair. You need to give us more time. And if that means that your shots get pushed off, or that you're not going to get your frickin' 12 scenes in one day, maybe, it's time to plan a day for special effects, because things take time. Things take time to look good. You want it done a certain way. And if you're constantly like, well, you need to hurry up, like, oh, you got this, you can be back in 15 minutes. It's very unfair, and it causes a lot of strife. And I could tell you that I'm not the only makeup artist that thinks this. We all talk. We're all friends. We're a tight community. As a whole, we would really appreciate if people would give us a little bit more time and understand that sometimes with special effects it maybe won't work that way, and also to communicate what kind of angling that you're working with, to say like, oh, this is exactly what we're seeing, so that we don't waste time on something that we're not seeing. But if you don't execute or you don't share that information with us, we don't know. So communication, and give us more freaking time, please.
Okay, what kind of projects are you working on now or in the near future?
So I'm still working on that, the skin suit. That's probably the number one that's on my list right now. I actually am working on my newest piece as a writer and director as well. And that's actually going to be a faith-based film. And I am a woman of faith, and a lot of people believe that since I am so into horror and gore and things, that you think that I don't believe in God, which is silly, because I do. He's the only reason that I have the skills that I have. And so actually this film, it's tough. So I don't know if I want to do film route or if I want to do like a series, because series are hot right now. People love to stream series. But it's going to be about people who are either from the ages of 17 to about 30, and they were always born in a religious family. So I was myself, and I've always known God, and I've always known how I'm technically supposed to live as a Christian. But of course, I've made mistakes along the way, and I've fallen out of faith and come back and go that. It's about people who have always had faith available, but actually discovering it for themselves for the first time. Because that's what it's about. It's about your relationship with God, and that's what this story is about. And it's very interesting to be writing it in a time like now, where a lot of people can't find that hope, and they feel they don't understand why God is doing what he's doing when the world is so sad. But I think it has actually helped me to write this, and I actually have developed a new character who, obviously, I'm not going to make it all about the coronavirus or COVID or anything like that, but I have written a new character that wasn't in it before, who has put themselves in a self-isolation, because I had never experienced what isolation really was like until now. Like all of us, we don't know what it's like to be inside our four walls for that long, and so a new character came out of that, which is exciting, and I'm still in the making, and I'm still writing, obviously, but that's the biggest one. And hopefully I wanted to film that, at the end of this year and hopefully have it out. But it's more looking like probably next summer at this point, obviously. But that just gives me more time to fine tune it. And I have also received a few scripts from other filmmakers in the area, also one out in eastern Pennsylvania as well, where I might be acting. I might be a final girl, which is crazy. That's every horror girl's dream, to be a final girl.
Final girl, what's that mean?
Oh, so one that doesn't die and is a badass.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I get to do some crazy things like saw
Get back at the guy.
Yeah, and like cut off arms and stuff from the acting point of view. And so I have a few other things, but obviously that's all being postponed to actually produce these and actually film these things right now. But there's definitely things in the making.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for doing this. Tell me how people can reach out to you, maybe buy some blood off of you, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. It's been fun. I hope I didn't ramble too much and get off topic way too much. But the best way to get a hold of me is always through, obviously, social media. We all do that. And I have a website. It's just www.sheyfrancis.com. I will forever have that because that's my name. So if you go there, I have my portfolio and all of those things. But also on Instagram, if you put in Shey Franscis, you also will find me. And then also I have a business page on Facebook too. And you can buy my blood either online through my website. And I also have an Etsy shop. But unfortunately, Etsy right now is super weird with everything that's going on. So the best bet would be, if you're in this area, to just follow me on Instagram and Facebook and reach out to me, because we can do curbside pickup like the rest of the world.
Let me know next time you're going to make a delivery like that, because I want to just call the police for fun and just have them like, it's a drug deal. Check it out.
Geez.
And they'll find the blood and you'll be in jail, and you can write about it next week.
Well, they'll test the blood and find out it's fake, because before we leave, I do have a fun story. I actually mailed some blood to a good friend of mine a couple months ago, and I wrapped that sucker like you wouldn't believe, like bubble wrap and paper and all these things. And I wrote a little note on the inside that said, if this is broken upon arrival, the Postal Service is way too rough on their items. Yeah, well, needless to say, it got lost and it smashed. So when it arrived to luckily a customer, but my friend, she took photos of it, and there's blood seeping through the package. I would love to have been a fly on the wall when the Postal Service saw that thing go through. And they obviously tested it, because if it was real blood, they probably would have been calling me and I'd be in jail. But they found out that it was fake.
Did they test it? Do you know?
They had to have. I mean, as soon as you touch it and you feel it and smell it and taste it, you'll know. I mean, don't go ahead and taste other people's blood, but as soon as you feel it, you'll feel that it's special effects blood. But it looked like it.
Did you have any kind of, this is special effects blood on the outside or anything?
I told them that it was liquid makeup, because I don't usually go to the post office and say, there's blood in that. So I usually say it's liquid makeup, because it sounds better.
Yeah.
But I do let them know it's liquid, so they know to be careful of it. But yeah, so they broke it. And I have pictures of the whole process. She actually cut it open and showed us, and it's just like glass and blood. It's quite interesting.
You'll probably make a movie out of it later, huh?
I probably could. I could.
Okay, Shey, thank you very much for being on the podcast. It was great. I really do appreciate it. And I hope to work with you in the future.
Of course, and thank you. I hope so too.
Okay, everybody, thanks for listening. If you found us on our webpage, please leave a comment and let us know what you think. If you found us on iTunes or Spotify and you like the show, please leave a rating or review. And whatever you do, hit the subscribe button. Thanks again, and we'll be here next week with another episode.